early in like the leadership journey, I was using a sniper rifle with every emotional engagement. It was pink. And then I move on to the next thing. I don't really dwell on what the emotion of that situation was. And sometimes I wasn't even shooting at the right target. So it was very much a learning process for me to be able to walk through how I use emotion in different situations, and how I am able to emote in like I was saying, depending on the situation, and learning how my emotional biases would tend to throw me off track. How I would feel a certain way when it really shouldn't have been. I was feeling no joy in joyful situations, or I was feeling sad and happy situations. So really having to peel that onion back and understand where my emotional biases were, where they came from. Like the question before, we talked about growing up, and like identifying like, okay, where's that really coming from? Is that coming from here? Is that coming from the person that I'm talking to? And really kind of flipping the script and identifying, okay, take my emotion out of this for just a second. I need to identify mine and stay emotionally in tune. But how is that other person feeling? Really just stop focusing on me and focusing on how that other person is feeling. So I'm not, like you said, trying to use the emotional mortar on a very specific situation. I'm using and digging into my tool set that I've gained, and I'm still, everybody, I think we're a continuous work in progress. Everybody is. So to be able to keep building up my tool set and keep studying emotion and studying how important emotion is in leadership, and understanding of each other's emotions, and just to keep learning and keep unpacking all that stuff is really kind of where I'm going. And it's what I want to focus on.
What's going on, man?
What's up, dude?
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
EQ Gangster audience, YouTube members, and the podcast listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. I got a high-speed, low-drag, air-cooled, belt-fed, Teflon-coated guest for you today. I've got a former Marine, Dr. Travis Hearne, and not a love doctor, although he's probably smooth like that too. This guy is the real deal, Holyfield. Let me read to you guys his background here. So he's the founder, principal executive, life coach, and organizational change consultant for Titanium Leadership Coaching and Consulting. He's got a passion for leadership and helping others succeed. He's got a doctor of education in organizational change and leadership. His passion is helping leaders build strong and transformational organizations through incorporating wellness and holistic health. I will have all of his links, websites, and contact information in the show notes, so you guys will be able to get access to him, once you guys check out the episode and stuff. Okay, so I met this guy through one of my other buddies who runs a company, a veteran-owned business as well, a guy named Jason Anderson. He was an Apache pilot, flew Apache helicopters in the Army, and he's got a fascinating real estate business. Actually, I just interviewed him as well. Not sure when these episodes will be coming out, so if Jason's will come out first or Travis's, but super guy. He runs a company called Veteran PCS, and it's a great website, great service for veterans. And he's like, hey, Noble, you got to meet this guy, Big Doc Travis, because Jason attended one of Travis's leadership engagements, kind of a lunch and learn kind of leadership program, a course that Travis put together. And so, boom, we did coffee, and it was instant bromance, man, between Marines and Army. So, Travis, thank you so much, bro, for taking the time to hang out with us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into some good questions for you.
Yeah, Noble, man. Just thank you for having me. I know it's rough to have a Marine on this podcast, but I'll try to speak slowly for folks, and try to bring some more of my EQ to the table as we start walking through this stuff. The first rule: know your audience. Thank you so much for having me on here. This is an honor. I like you said, man, 9-year Marine Corps veteran, tours Iraq and Afghanistan. First Light Armor Reconnaissance Battalion, and then just kind of left that world. And I really started at that. That was where my leadership journey began, seeing the ends of the spectrum of where leadership took people and how it literally saved people's lives. Like watching that in action just got this stirring in me for helping people lead well. And when you and I sat down for coffee and you started talking about the emotional intelligence aspect of leadership and how, gauging, knowing your own emotions, and then that helps you understand other people's emotions and just helps you lead better. That's been like the foundation of really what I've been talking about for leadership for the past, like what, 10 years. Wow. So man, it's been a crazy journey. It's been awesome. And end up here, like, this is going to be fun. And I am excited. Again, I know Marine Corps and doctorate don't really mix very well, but we'll give it our best. I was a knuckle dragon enlisted guy. So that's, I still speak that language.
That's awesome. So dude, check this out. This is a funny story. So I've interviewed one other Marine before you, and he also has a PhD. So the two Marines I've had on here are both big brain dudes. His name is J.R. Flatter. It's a great episode, 30-minute episode. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Flatter Inc. and Two Roads Leadership, 2R Leadership. And he's started a big government contracting company 20 some years ago after his Marine Corps time in service, and very successful guy, very humble, down to earth guy, and just had an amazing conversation with him as well. So it's neat, man, having you big brain Marines on here to add value, man. I really appreciate
we slip in under the radar a lot of the time. So that's good.
That's right. How did your childhood lay the emotional foundation for your adulthood, positively or negatively? What were some of maybe some of the positive things that you took from your childhood emotionally into adulthood, and maybe some of the things that was not the greatest that you've had to work on or overcome?
Yeah, man, what a great question. And that one's a thinker. And it's a good thing we talked about this during coffee. It's giving me a little while to think about that one. So like it's my childhood, I grew up in northern New Mexico, where it was just the diversity. There was not much diversity there. It was about a 90% Hispanic town. So walking through that, my identity was really, I didn't know. I kind of had a little bit of identical whiplash, if you want to call it that. So both parents, they were married until I was 18. They were kind of on different ends of the spectrum as far as emotional showing emotion. My mom was on the don't show emotion end of the spectrum. My dad was on the hyper show emotion end of the spectrum, and both of those were amazing. So as I started walking through life and walking through college, and then initially into the Marine Corps, it was looking at those two ends of the spectrum and trying to figure out on a sliding scale, where do I fit? How do I walk through this emotionally? Like, there's some situations I tend to jump into the non-emotional side, but that's when I should be emotional. Or sometimes I tend to jump into the really, really emotional side when I shouldn't. That shouldn't invoke so much emotion. So it's been this balancing act of what I've learned from both of my parents and growing up in New Mexico to be able to walk through that in a healthy way, and to be able to express that. Now that I have kids, I have a 5, a 7, and a 9-year-old. They're all boys. They all are me, and it's like, man, how do I teach these guys to be emotionally intelligent, emotionally equipped to handle what life is going to throw at them? And for me, taking those two ends of the spectrum and still continuing to just every single day trying to dial that in, and seeing where I land it's been a journey for me, but it's really been it's been a good metric to be able to do that, because my wife and my kids, I have to, like, emotional health is very, very important to us. It's like I said, it's the foundation of what of how we live, of how we lead. And what I want my kids to grow up with is that toolkit of being able to identify emotion, speak what they're feeling, and to be able to get that in order to be able to healthily do something well. So
Yeah, absolutely. And as we talked about during that coffee a couple weeks ago, I think such a huge aspect of leadership. Now, I'm only learning this now, or the past 4 years. Prior to 4 years ago, I had no concept of this stuff that we're talking about. But the importance of self-awareness to increase one's effectiveness as a leader is tremendous. The analogy that I use a lot of times is it's so, especially when we're talking to military folks, is if you don't know what weapon system you are, you don't know what is your highest and best use. Am I a 9 mil? Am I the 45? Am I a 240 Bravo? Am I the saw? Am I a mortar, 60 millimeter mortar? Am I a 155 artillery? Like, if you don't know what weapon system you are, you can't use a mortar to clear a room. I mean, I guess maybe you
Good.
could, but
For the whole house.
right, but you would clear the whole house. So, but as people, a lot of leaders don't know. They are not very, so again, I was absolutely clueless emotionally. So let me ask you this: what challenges did you have to work through or work on as a leader?
Oh man. So this is a good question, man. So going back to the weapon analogy, I used to, back early in my Marine Corps, my Marine Corps career, and then early in like the leadership journey, I was using a sniper rifle with every emotional engagement. It was pink. And then I move on to the next thing. I don't really dwell on what the emotion of that situation was. And sometimes I wasn't even shooting at the right target. So it was very much a learning process for me to be able to walk through how I use emotion in different situations, and how I am able to emote in like I was saying, depending on the situation, and learning how my emotional biases would tend to throw me off track. How I would feel a certain way when it really shouldn't have been. I was feeling no joy in joyful situations, or I was feeling sad in happy situations. So really having to peel that onion back and understand where my emotional biases were, where they came from. Like the question before, we talked about growing up, and like identifying, like, okay, where's that really coming from? Is that coming from here? Is that coming from the person that I'm talking to? And really kind of flipping the script and identifying, okay, take my emotion out of this for just a second. I need to identify mine and stay emotionally in tune. But how is that other person feeling? Really just stop focusing on me and focusing on how that other person is feeling. So I'm not, like you said, trying to use the emotional mortar on a very specific situation. I'm using and digging into my tool set that I've gained, and I'm still, everybody, I think we're a continuous work in progress. Everybody is. So to be able to keep building up my tool set and keep studying emotion and studying how important emotion is in leadership, and understanding of each other's emotions, and just to keep learning and keep unpacking all that stuff is really kind of where I'm going. And it's what I want to focus on.
That's great. Love it. Love it. And so for some of you all that maybe are newer in your emotional growth journey, the goal, let me just do a quick 10,000-foot statement on emotional intelligence. The goal of emotional health and emotional intelligence is not to be some warm fuzzy kumbaya, sit around the campfire, bathing in essential oils and smoking skittle farts or something like that, right? It's to become more effective decision makers based on the data and information from our own emotions and from the emotions of other people. So honestly, man, for me, it's a leadership tool. It's a human being tool. And the cool thing I love about EQ is that it doesn't just make you a better executive, a better CEO, a better commander in the military. It also makes you a better husband, a better wife, a better father, a better mother, a better brother, a better sister, right? A better human being.
Yeah.
One of my buddies who's in the EQ Mafia, he's in our emotional intelligence membership group. He said, Noble, man, he said the study of EQ and the pursuit of EQ should be called the pursuit of being a better human being. And I just thought, man, that's kind of an apropos, kind of description. Okay, so how emotionally healthy were you in the military?
Thinking back on it, I mean, totally unemotional. There was no, especially when you go through Marine Corps boot camp, it's just basically they take away your emotions. You don't even have a name. You are this recruit. You don't have an identity. It's you cannot show emotions. I mean, it's the kill mindset, which is the mantra that they put into your head as you walk through boot camp. And then that's what you bring into the rest of your training, to the schoolhouse, to to your unit. And it's just very much, it was very much a, hey, this is the mindset we need to do. Emotions can come later. You can't make decisions. You cannot make emotional decisions. Otherwise you're going to fail. That was kind of the mantra of what was put into my military walk. But as I started to see the difference in leadership, and I was a little bit older, I didn't enlist until I was about 23. So as I was walking into Iraq and Afghanistan, and I saw some of the really good leaders, they were making not emotional decisions, but they were making decisions with emotions. They were taking their emotions that they were feeling and that other people were feeling, because it was scary. Like no lie, you're in combat. It's no joke. So being able to understand that's how your people are feeling and that's how you're feeling, and to like, okay, we're not like mission accomplishment. We need to accomplish this mission. And like you were talking about, it's not this warm and fuzzy, like we needed to sit around. Okay, Lieutenant such and such, how are you feeling today? It's like, okay, we're going to go do this. What's everybody's ideas? What's everybody's thoughts? So as we conducted each mission, I saw this guy just walk through that so in such a healthy way. And then one of our last missions in Afghanistan, he was like, we pulled up all the LAVs, the light armor vehicles. We pulled them all up in a circle. This dude got up on top of one of the LAVs. You can YouTube this thing. It's awesome. He got up on top of the LAVs and he just started talking to us as people. It wasn't a lieutenant colonel talking to his unit. It was a leader talking to his people, and on a very personal level, and with a lot of emotional talk. Hey, I know this is I know what we're walking into, and I feel what you all are feeling inside me, but we are in this together. So it was the way that he walked through that was, I was looking at him and I was like, man, that's how you use emotion in a dangerous and hard situation. That is how you do this. And he was just able to, in some of my leadership stuff, we talk about inspirational motivation. Like, how do you inspirationally motivate people? Using emotion, using what inspires them, what deeply inspires them, and then use that to motivate them. Like, he tapped into that for a unit of, for 100 Marines that day. And we didn't like that operation. We didn't lose one Marine on that operation. And I really feel it was because, like, man, we were dialed in, and it was because he tapped into who we were as people, and not just Marines in Afghanistan, but he tapped into who we were as people, and he was able to just speak into that. And it just, like, I really think that him being able to do that saved lives.
Wow. Yeah. That is such a powerful visual and a great example, dude. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. So when you said join the Marines, so it's 23 years old, going through boot camp, going to Iraq, going to your deployments and stuff, you trained to, like, hey, no emotion, that kind of thing. So I'm assuming, and it's always dangerous to assume that, and I don't know when you got married and when your wife kind of joined you along this journey, but I'm assuming that when you came home from your various, work days and deployments and stuff, that you were not able to turn off your emotions while at the job and then all of a sudden turn on your emotions at work. For me, at home. For me, I was just straight emotionally clueless across the board. So it wasn't like I had the emotional agility to be like, okay, at work, I'm going to be hardcore 82nd Airborne Ranger, infantry guy. And then at home, oh, honey, how are you feeling? And tell me, what are your emotions in the moment? And, oh, let me tell you how I'm feeling. I was just straight clueless, emotional flatline right across the board. How was it for you? Were you able to turn them off and turn them on? Or what was that experience like emotionally, not just in the Marines, but now at home?
Oh my goodness, man. It was a rough road. Like you're saying, it was very much like emotional schizophrenia. I had to be one person when I was at work, and I had to turn that off, try to turn that off and come be another person at work when I'm at home. And what I fell to was I was this hardcore motivator at work, and then I felt a flatline at home. I didn't want to bring that hardcoreness, that Marine Corps mentality to the house, because my wife, Tracy, and I met her early on, before Iraq, before Afghanistan. And so she was with me she saw the evolution she saw the steep decline after Iraq and Afghanistan of my emotional ability to emote. And then she has seen the slow progression since, but it was almost impossible to be able to turn that to be able to turn this hardcore mentality in a infantry battalion into coming home and being emotionally connected to my wife. And so as we have walked the journey post deployments and post Marine Corps, it's been this like almost like here's the emotional bar that I've set for myself. And I'm just like slowly climbing to get back up to this. Here's that flat line we talked about. And then I'm slowly climbing to try to get back up above the red, if that makes sense. So it's about self-recognition, and what the Marine Corps did amazing things to me. It pulled me out of a place where I was in a potentially life or death situation with just negative consequences and just stupid choices. So the Marine Corps pulled this into me, and I really needed that at the time. I needed someone to slap me in the face and be like, you need to get your stuff together now. Otherwise it's the graveyard for you. So the Marine Corps brought that to me, and it was just like it stripped away all of those emotions that I had and like brought me to this Marine Corps baseline. And I didn't know how to switch that off. So I just didn't do anything. So that's when I'd come home, I was exactly at that baseline. So, yeah.
Correct me if I'm understanding you incorrectly. What it sounds like you just shared is, you at work in the Marine Corps, you were hardcore, hard charging infantry guy. When you came back home, you just became emotionally numb.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was the intel guy in the infantry battalion, but we were machine gunners. But we were still we were with the companies. That's where we was with the infantry battalion. So, but we were doing the same training. We were doing the same everything. And you are 100% correct. And it was impossible to turn that off. It wasn't impossible. I had a hard time turning that off and coming home and showing my wife the love that she deserved and the empathy that she deserved.
Super appreciate your vulnerability in sharing that. So now I want to tap into your organizational leadership and the stuff you've been doing for the past decade in leadership based on the dynamic that you just shared. So my hypothesis, not having thought about this before, is that we should be empathetic leaders at work, and we should be empathetic leaders, family members in the family. I don't know that our mindset should change. So that's my little quick hypothesis. And that may sound great and brief well, but from your perspective of a decade obviously you've been in leadership for longer, but in organizational leadership and all the stuff you've been doing the past decade, what have you observed? Do you feel that I guess what I'm saying is I feel like a lot of people, me included, have a very difficult time with that transition from work to home emotionally. Am I smoking crack, or am I right? How do you feel about that? What's been your experience?
No, my experience is exactly that. It's either people know how to, they're again, we'll go back to the spectrum. A lot of people, when I talk to executives, or I talk to people, to entrepreneurs, to military members, it's just like, okay, I'm either really emotional at work and that's affecting my work life, or I'm not emotional at home because I'm really, that line is very, very blurred. So when I talk to people, it's about helping them to bring their emotions and like you were saying, understand what their emotions are. But I think a part of EQ is understanding what other people's emotions are as well. So that is a big piece of how I've helped some leaders walk through the balance of work-home life, as far as bringing your emotions home and keeping your emotions at work at some time. So when I'm talking to my wife or my kids, there is a different emotional connection that I have to make, and I have to understand that they need from me than the E5 and E6, and what emotion he's gonna need from the emotion that he or she is putting onto me. I have to understand how to in return use that and get the job done, or answer the question, but still tapping into my emotions and his. So it's kind of how we have that emotion spectrum. Then you have that EQ spectrum where you are tapping into emotions, but there are different levels at different times. And helping people do that, it's about practices. It's having people walk through, okay, when you get home from your day, if you're having a hard time emotionally disconnecting from the day or the hardcoreness, the busyness, the scaling of your business, the thriving of your product, if you're having a hard time turning that off, you need to create space where you can literally, whether it's meditation, whether it's a buffer of time where you're sitting by yourself and you're tapping into how you're feeling, taking deep breaths and being able to transition, and it makes that transition much more smooth. It's never going to be perfect. But if you go straight from work straight into back home, you're going to bring a lot of that stuff with you. If you're able to take 15 minutes, 5 minutes, and just do some breathing exercises, do some checking in with yourself and understanding what you're getting ready to walk into. For me, love coming home, but it's 3 kids under 10. It's a 5, 7, 9-year-old, and the busyness of the day. My wife's been, and it's just like, okay, I need to be able to switch off this, like, this coaching and consulting mindset. And because my wife doesn't need that. When I get home, my counselor that I see, he's like, thou shalt not therapize thy wife. That's what he tells me all the time. So when I have to be able to switch that off, to be able to switch the cybersecurity stuff, I switch that off and be like, okay, I'm walking and really tangibly understand what I'm walking into, to be able to emotionally regulate myself, because it's difficult for me and it takes me a lot longer. So to be able to take deep breaths, sit in the car and be able to walk into that and put some tools and steps in place to be able to do that. And then vice versa. If you're at home and you're more on the emotional side, it's like, okay, maybe be a little bit more organized at work, where I need, okay, here's tasks that I need to be emotionally charged for, and then walk into it in that way. So it's being very intentional. Intentionality is huge in all of this, and being intentional to do both of those it has been successful for me. And I've seen it's been successful for my people that I've walked with.
That's excellent. Excellent practical example. One of the tools or resources that I've been using as a coach now in the EQ space for executives and leaders and stuff is an app called the Mood Meter. It's 99 cents on the App Store. It's not mine. I have no idea who made it, but I use it myself, and I recommend it to all my coaching clients. And that's something that it takes 15 to 20 seconds, like no joke, maybe 30 seconds. And you pull into your driveway. And one of my other things that I've learned is that if you want to start a new habit, attach it to a habit you've already got. And
Yeah.
so you're going to pull into your driveway. So when you pull in, that's the trigger. Before you open your car door, okay, I got to fill out my Mood Meter app real quick. It takes 30 seconds, does an emotional check-in. What are you feeling? Why are you feeling it? Do a little check-in. Okay, got it. And I love the idea of like okay, let me take a couple breaths, few minutes, do some breathing exercises, that kind of thing. All right, let me get some, kind of some presence going on. How do I want to show up to my family right now? What emotions am I carrying or emoting right now, so I can be aware of that and dial those in as needed, and then eventually walk into the house. I love that, creating like an SOP, standard operating procedure, for showing up. And the other thing too is for those, okay, this is great, right? Boom, look at this, huh? A little woo woo, little ninja transition here for all the remote workers out there. I'm a remote worker. I've been working from home for 17 years now, 17 years now. So this is not a new environment for me, but for a lot of people that it is kind of new. How can they manage their their emotional environment when they're working from home? How does that, what does that look like for them?
So this is huge. Like, Noble, this is the, like, when the COVID sent us all into I call it from the boardrooms to the bedrooms, like, that emotional connection. If I do this, how emotionally connected are you to me?
Okay, that's excellent. Excellent. Now, for those of y'all that are listening on the podcast, Travis just did a very powerful, visceral thing on this Zoom. So for those that are on YouTube, you're going to be able to see what happened there. So Travis just, obviously on the podcast, right? So he just asked, hey, how connected do you feel? He shut off his camera. Dude, when I'm doing any kind of web conference or Zoom, barring somebody being in their pajamas or skivvies, I'm like, I don't care if you got morning breath, you got bed hair. I I want to see your grill, man. I
Yeah.
got to see the pearly whites for that reason. That emotional connection of seeing a blank screen, right, with your initials or your name versus being able to see your pearly whites. I don't care which, makeup or no, right? That's up to the person, but man, it's visceral, dude.
Yes.
That's powerful, dude. I love that.
Yeah. And like, and so emotions are not just words. If I'm downtrodden, if I'm not if I'm looking away, if there's something physically that you can see that maybe I'm going through as a leader. So when I talk about leading hybrid, I'm writing a book right now on how to successfully lead on-site remote teams. It's called Hybrid. So it's this concept of like, okay, we like leaders were thrown into this world of now online leadership where you're leading through a computer screen or a telephone, and you're leading teams that are across the country. So how do you do that well from going from this work model of being able to jump into a cubicle, say, hey, Sally, how you doing today? Hey, Tim, do you need anything from me right now? To, okay, we got to set up a meeting. I'll send you a link. Here's my calendar. All these different electronic things that have been fantastic to be able to facilitate remote and hybrid work. But the emotional connection has gone out the window. The human interaction that is so necessary for just psychologically for people to be able to physically be connected and around other human beings is necessary for holistic and emotional health. And when people are isolated and are fearful, and there was a lot of fear in the beginning, like what is going to happen? What is this? What is that? And leaders had to walk through this with their people. And so what I do and try to, when I help leaders that are leading remote teams, I'm like, man, set up some policies that people have to have their cameras on. Again, like you said, I don't care if you're in your, like what you're wearing, man, like just if you're doing client meetings, that's something different. But like, if it's you and me, I want your camera on. I want to see your face. I want to see how you are doing. I want to see if you showered today. Like, it goes down to the tangible things of like, man, we need to rehumanize this dehumanized work culture that we are going to, that a lot of companies are going to. And it's the new thing. People, like huge organizations, are closing down business, or not, they're closing down their rental and their retail space because people can work from home and it's saving them money. So this is here to stay. And to be able to walk leaders through that and how to, I use kind of the example of the transformational leadership example. Like one of the tenets is individual consideration. How much do you know your people, and how much do you consider what they need, how they need it, how they need to be led, how they need to be spoken to. And we need to focus as we move into this hybrid work world. We need to refocus human connection, and we need to re-emphasize that, hey, this is different. Like if Noble and I I didn't have our cameras on, and you take away all these computer screens, I'm sitting here talking to myself. I'm a crazy person talking to myself. So being able to connect with your people, and that is what's going to move us in a healthy way from out of this pandemic and into this brand new world of work that we are all going to have to jump into.
Fire. Absolutely love that, bro, because and the real example that you shared earlier on in our conversation about all those labs being pulled up in a circle, and your BC, your battalion commander, standing on the hood, giving that very emotional, inspirational speech to a group of fellow human beings, not just Marines with a dog tag and a serial number or whatever, right? But really understanding the emotional environment of his organization, his company, his unit at that time. I love how you shared that, because you're like, and no one was killed, and you feel, and you kind of also made a connection, at least the way I received it was, everyone's performance was maximized. And I feel, and I agree with you, because of this dude's understanding of the human environment, the culture, what his troops needed. And again, the connection that, listen, when you lead this way, when you are an empathetic leader, you will bring the best out of those around you, which optimizes and maximizes performance. One of the things I say on my podcast: emotionally healthy leaders create emotionally healthy cultures and organizations, which maximize and optimize results and outcomes.
On point.
Right?
Oh my gosh. So, and one thing that like bringing that back, man, that story, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that story. I mean, we lost 3 Marines in that, on that deployment, and the unit above us, I think they lost 18. It was a rough deployment. But when that battalion commander got up on top of that hood and he said, I want you to take care of the Marine to your left and to your right. That is something I believe that we in the military, we do well. No man left behind. Take care of the guy or gal to your left and to your right. And bringing that into a culture of leadership when the business world, and when you don't have anybody to your left or to your right, going back to like the hybrid work world, you need to make sure that you are checking it, because a lot of the times you can feel them there. You can feel them to your left, or you feel their presence there, your left or your right, and you know what they're doing. When you jump into an online work environment, that feeling's not there. And it becomes the leader's responsibility to be able to tap into that emotion that he or she has. And it comes with vulnerability. It comes with being like constantly intentionality with check-ins. And it's just like that. I'll never forget that day in my entire life. Like that heightened sense of like, hey, this is like, I'm going to do better because of what he said. I am going to look to my left and right. I'm going to make sure that he comes home, that she comes home. I'm going to make sure that happens. And it's not like I wasn't thinking about that before, but like just that emotion that was invoked in me, that motivation, that inspirational motivation that we talk about, like that was pulled out of me, that may have been there before, but like now it's like that's at the forefront. Like, and I really do think that the what he said during those times helped us to be successful in that operation.
And I 100%. And also, dude, I want to say I'm sorry that you lost those Marines. Your unit lost those Marines. It's never easy, man. Losing loved ones and
Yeah.
fellow soldiers and stuff. The power of, and I love what you said there again, the inspirational motivation. It's in the EQ books. In fact, in this one too, the emotionally intelligent leader by Daniel Goleman. He's one of the OGs in the EQ space. There's truckloads of statistics that emotionally intelligent leaders outperform leaders that are not emotionally intelligent. Their organizations, their companies, their divisions. One quote says 20 up to 20% increase in performance by those that are emotionally intelligent, and conversely, a 20% underperformance by those leaders that are not emotionally intelligent in that workspace.
Yeah.
And then again, I don't know if there's stats on this, but this would also be fascinating, is what what does that look like? What does an emotionally unintelligent leader look like at home?
Yeah.
What does that look like in America? Well, heck, I can tell you.
I was
Listen to
gonna
my
say, to be
podcast.
honest, like I think I know. I know exactly what that looks like, man. It looked like me.
That's emotionally codependent, emotionally needy, toxic positivity, food addict, people pleaser addict. Name the dysfunction, man. I had the whole.
I with you, bro. One thing I wanted to hit on really quick,
Yeah.
man. We have this in our new U.S. culture, world culture, with the Great Resignation, where people are just leaving jobs left and right. So I think like not only are they overperforming, these leaders that are emotionally intelligent, and they've tapped into their EQ. Not only are they successful, but their teams are staying with them. Like they're not quitting. The reason for people to stay at a job now is because the leader is emotionally connected to them. They're emotionally connected to the leader. And that is what it's going to make this Great Resignation thing something different. And people are going to want to start staying with jobs because of the leader that they're following. And then they're going to, and then taking it a step further, they're going to strive to be that leader. And then you walk through, it's called idealized influence. Like, well, you want how do you want to see how do you see yourself as a leader, and what do you want your people to lead like how do you want your people to become leaders? And when you are an emotionally intelligent leader and you're walking your team through that, they want to be that. They want to stick with you, and they want to be that. So that's another part of that emotionally intelligent, successful leader.
That is massive. Retention and attrition.
Yeah.
Massive point for the plight of being an emotionally intelligent leader. That is a massive massive point, because every company, there's dollars and cents attached to retention and attrition and hence training, right? There's an actual dollar sign to that. And if you don't think that's affecting companies, man, you're not tracking right now. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's an excellent point. And this is an older stat, but I don't think it's that old. The number one reason why people leave jobs is actually, and I thought, oh, it's money, they're just not getting paid. No, it's actually management. It's poor management, which again is somehow connected to the emotional intelligence of that management. Because if they, otherwise they would have the awareness that, okay, man, like you said, knowing your team, knowing where they're at, knowing their needs, knowing their wants, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And well, just in that vein, in the book, I talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, and for this exact same thing. I can throw money and nice little plaques at people all day long, but if I don't know as a leader what intrinsically motivates them, what they get up for, what their dreams and desire, and promoting that in any way I can, that's the stick. Like that's if people feel more intrinsically motivated at work, extrinsic motivation can come in another company. Like that same dollar sign can come from a different company. But if I have a leader that intrinsically knows who I am and what drives me, that's where the sticking power comes from.
Love it. Travis, any final thoughts or encouragement or advice?
If you are in a spot where you're struggling you're struggling to lead your people, whether it's on-site, remote teams, military, whether you're in the home trying to figure, if you're trying to emotionally connect to your kids, like it's going to start with you. It starts with you being intentional about working through your emotions. Noble, you and I have talked about where we started, and kind of as we climb this emotional progression and this emotional mountain that we're trying to climb, it's about knowing yourself and knowing how your emotions impact others and how other people's emotions impact you. So if you are, that'd be a great place to start. If you are having trouble in the home, leading your kids, leading your organizations, whatever just as a person, if you're struggling as a person, really check in and see if your emotions are in check, and take steps to help understand what your emotions are. If they are out of whack, take the steps to try to figure that out. Because once you figure out your emotions and how you react to other people's emotions, you can start to have better conversations. You can start to live a better life. You can start being more emotionally supportive to your spouse. You can start, your empathy level goes up. It's all these things. Once you figure out emotions, it really ties into launching you into health, into holistic health, and to becoming a better leader, a better person, and just an overall better person.
Awesome. Excellent point there. One of the things that I say is that if you don't deal with your emotional issues, your friends, family, and coworkers will be forced to.
Yep. Fact.
Right. And so that advice is excellent. It starts, leading others starts with leading ourselves.
100%.
And that includes emotionally as well. That's an aspect of all of us. So that's excellent, man. Thank you so much, bro. So now, can you give us your website, your book, your resources? How do we find you? How do we connect with you?
Yeah, so the book, it's called Hybrid, and it's successfully guiding leaders on how to lead on-site and remote teams. So that's going to be out in the summer. So if you go to my website, it's titaniumleadershipconsulting.com. You can sign up for the newsletter, and it'll keep you informed on the progress of the book. Also, if you want to just follow me on LinkedIn, I'm on there as well as on Facebook. I have a separate page it's at dr.Hearne. So if you'll search for that, you can find me. It's a cool journey that we walk through together. We post a lot of really fun stuff on there. There's videos, there's links, there's resources. You'll see on the website, there's my blog. There's actually an emotional intelligence article that I wrote on there. And it's one of my favorites, but just, if you could just head on over to those platforms, follow along, and it's going to be a really cool journey through this book process and through this consulting and coaching process. There's a lot of free resources there for a lot of people.
Dude, thank you, bro. This has been amazing. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Noble.